Hey guys, I want to welcome you again to the Three Circle Podcast. Hey, it's been a few weeks. We've taken a little time off as we've kicked off the summer around here at Three Circle. My name's Chris Bell, and I'm on the pastoral staff here at this incredible church, and we have just kicked off our summer series. So every summer we do a series that kind of lasts the entire summer, and this year we're really excited to be walking through the life of Jacob, one of the patriarchs of the Old Testament, and that puts us all summer in the book of Genesis, towards the back end of it. And this is an incredible real life, real family story. And Jacob, we are calling him kind of the running man of the Bible. He's like, he's always on the run. He's running from something to something. The next drama he's going to create in his life. And kind of the first half of his life looks like a total train wreck. It is one thing after another. But as we progress through his life this summer, we're going to come to the point where God's going to turn him into, well, he's going to take him from being a guy who runs from God to being a man who runs for God. And that's the transformation we get to see. We're excited about that. And it's already been a lot of fun. We're 2 weeks in. And today, to kind of walk through a little bit of that and talk about life and other cool stuff, is my good friend. He's been a part of my life now for, I think, how long, TC?
15 maybe?
15 at least,
years,
15,
yeah.
16 years. But T.C. Brown, the student pastor here at Fairhope, and also the global kind of overseer over all of our student ministries at all of our campuses, the one and only, the theologian, the preaching machine, T.C. Brown. What's up, T.C.?
Good to be here. Thanks for having me.
T.C., somehow when in my phone, this is a true story and I will prove it to you after this.
Okay.
When I try to plug your name, when I go TC, and I think my son may have done it, it has programmed my phone to go Timothy Clarence Brown. So boom, it corrects it every single time.
But hey, now the entire church knows what the C stands for.
No doubt.
So it's also the second. So
yeah. Oh, okay. Just add to it.
There you go.
Okay, so you're looking pure Vita today is what we're going to say, and the reason is you're in the afterglow of a trip to Costa Rica, which we all have a deep love for.
Just came off the Mount of Transfiguration. Yeah.
Right. I've seen Jesus, because we all love some Costa Rica, don't we?
That's right.
So Costa Rica, TC, we've been down there over 10 years now as a church, doing really gospel work, and we have these partners, Pano, Danny, and their whole bunch. They're planting gospel-centered churches, really doing incredible work in towns like Nosara, Tamarindo. What's the other town? There's really three.
Tamarindo, Nosara, and
I always miss the last one.
Oh, I'm drawing a blank on it as well.
Yeah, that place.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And it's amazing. It's a beautiful place. The people are incredible, but they need Jesus and they need to be discipled. And we are really invested in doing that in Costa Rica, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, we are.
Yeah. So welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Let's dive in. Let's talk about everything. Let's talk about the Jacob series, Costa Rica. So while we're in the neighborhood of Costa Rica, why do you find it? Because my son has now gone on. He's gone to Costa Rica with me. Now he's been with you 3 times, I think. Was this the third? It was.
Yeah,
this
third
was
or
the
fourth.
third.
Yeah.
And so why is it so so effective, so powerful to take a group of kids somewhere like that?
Sure. So one thing that we say with our teenagers when we're there is we find it is most effective to connect with God when you disconnect from everything else. So you get away and you get your hands dirty. You are able to, you literally have no cell service, so you can't connect to anything down there. And they are doing they're being the hands and feet of Jesus.
Yeah.
We worked with the
A
ministry
lot of manual
there.
labor, right? It
is. And we worked with some parachurch ministries called Mercy Homes, where they take these families who have basically are living in a hut with a dirt floor. And statistically speaking, when that is the case, you have between a 30 and a 40% chance of success rate in life in general, as opposed to a family that has a concrete floor, 4 walls, and a roof. And so it changes that statistic to 30 to 40 to 70 to 80 just by giving them a floor.
Are there any details on why that is? I get it, but what are the under the hood details?
Under the hood details, it's
cleanliness.
Yes. Well, you have an upper class and you have a lower class. There is no middle class. Okay. So there is a stark contrast between the people who...
And a concrete floor is a separating line?
Yep.
Really?
So we go there and no kidding, we built a home for a family that had been waiting for 3 years. just the week before we got there, she had this mom had called the guy who was leading this ministry. His name is Maximo, which is just cool.
What a cool name.
Reminds me of Gladiator. And she called asking, hey, have you forgotten about me?
Mm.
And the guy, Maximo, says, hey, our God is a faithful God, and we told you we're going to do it. This team from Three Circle Church, this is cool, I didn't even told you this. So this team from Three Circle Church has come in, and we were not scheduled to do this woman's home. Mm-hmm. Well, a crew that was set to build her home backed out the week prior. So we came in, and we were the ones who stepped in and built the home for this family. So you see, you get to see the beginning of this, the dirt floor.
Yeah.
You build the concrete and or the concrete foundation. They come into the walls, and we get to see the end product. And then the mom and the dad and the kids are just sitting there, weeping.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for giving us a home.
Yeah.
So we're doing that. We take our teenagers and we essentially become a part of the staff there at Casa Vida, which is the name of the church.
Right.
And we minister to the people in that neighborhood. So it's not, while that is a project in and of itself, the Casa Vida deal or the Mercy Home deal, last year I think we built a fence that went in front of a bar. No kidding. And it was something that the church wanted to do, but they didn't have the means to do. So we, through no kidding, we had raised some funds through Camp 3 Circle.
Yeah.
Our student ministry had raised some funds through this thing we call Uprise. We brought this money down. We built a fence in front of a bar last year, and so this was over a weekend. Some of the people at that bar that worked there, some of them lived there. That Sunday morning, we see them at church.
Oh wow!
And so I think we, on one hand, we were like, man, this is incredible. We're a part of something absolutely amazing. The people who live there are coming to us going, you don't understand how big of a deal this is that they are here, all because we did this thing for them. So we're partnering with them, but it's in a big way, but also in a little way. We're just loving on we're doing what they're already doing.
Yeah,
I guess is what I'm saying.
Great. So, and they are doing great work.
They really are, and it is. Yeah, man, it's such a great thing.
And Nasara is beautiful. That's a cool area, man.
Yes, it is gorgeous.
Well,
hot.
I love it's hot. It's hot here too, though, right?
It is.
So we've kicked off the summer, and over the years, I was thinking through our summer series. It's kind of one of our things. We do a whole summer series, and we've done the water series a few years ago. We've done 10 Commandments. One summer we did the life of Joseph. I think we called it From the Pit to the Palace. Mm-hmm. We've done, what's some other summer series we've done? We did Fruit of the Spirit last summer.
Yep, that's right.
It's just over the years, we did the book of Ephesians all summer.
Did we do Esther? Wasn't that?
No, we did Esther, but it was a spring series. We did the book of Acts all summer one time.
That's right.
So this summer is all about the life of Jacob. And, what do you think in your mind when you think the character Jacob, the patriarch of the Old Testament, what is the first? Because I think when we do these big lives like his or like Joseph's, what we call it is episodic preaching. And what we mean is we're going to take the big episodes in his life because you could spend years walking through his verse by verse. Yeah. What's the big thing that comes to your mind about Jacob?
I actually, when I think about Jacob, I think about his I might be getting too far ahead here.
No, you're good.
So where it's not really talked about all too much, but where he meets back up with Esau all the years later.
Yes,
I don't know if that's set to be talked about, but so if you look ahead in the story of Joseph, when his dad and his brothers all come back to him, he forgives Jacob, and he forgives his brothers for selling him into slavery, and it's this epic moment.
Right.
And I think sometimes we overlook the fact that Joseph had on display in the life of Jacob that same thing taking place. If you go back and look at that. So
you think maybe he had that example?
Go look at it, and you will see where Jacob, when he sends all of his livestock ahead of the parade, if you will, to ask. I think he thought Esau was going to kill him.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
This is the end of me. So, which is why he's sending all of these gifts. And there's one verse.
Here's a cow.
There's one verse where it says he brought his son Joseph up with him, right next to him. Wow. So that means when I'm getting chills as I'm thinking about it, when Jacob was asking Esau for forgiveness, Joseph saw the whole thing.
Oh man.
So think about that. So you fast forward to when Joseph had every reason to smite his brothers and his family. His dad is right before him. In my head, I'm like, dude, he had to remember that moment where he's asking Esau for forgiveness. So you see this connection. That is what I go to.
Wow, man, that's cool. You know, a lot of people, there's different episodes in his life that are so famous. We are 2 weeks in. So the first week we talked about the fact that Jacob he comes from a story. He comes from this family that God has chosen to, eventually bring us the Messiah. There's this Abrahamic covenant. They're living in a covenant relationship with God. But I think that we have these almost glossy images of the patriarchs. And, Jacob had a famous grandfather, and it was Abraham. And we look at Abraham and we think, oh, man, kind of like in America, we've got these heroes like George Washington, Lincoln, and we kind of polish them up, but they were real humans.
Right.
They made mistakes. It took a while for them to come around. And the same is true for Jacob's family. It was dysfunctional. The truth is, the family that God chose to use was a mess. And we know, you just look under the hood. Abraham, goes to Egypt with Sarah, his good-looking wife, and basically lies to the Egyptians to save his own hide, and allows her to be taken into Pharaoh's house. We all know what that means. What could have happened.
Right.
He made that choice. Abraham was not always a stand-up dude.
Right.
And yet Jacob's the one that kind of gets caught with the here's the bad apple of the bunch. Actually, no, they all were dysfunctional. Yep. So TC, when you look at that, and you deal with kids, you deal with families all the time, I think there's a lot of shame, man, that people put on themselves because maybe their family's not perfect.
Sure.
Maybe their background's not perfect. Let's talk about that for a minute. Why do you think that is so easy for us to fall victim to? But why would you say that that's something that none of us should fall victim to?
Sure.
Since we all have some dysfunction.
Sure. Well, I think, when it comes to repentance, the idea of, I think a lot of us, and I'm maybe jumping the gun here, I'd go to shame often as a byproduct of being stuck in sin. So for me, my gosh, when I get stuck in sin, I am missing out on the full picture of repentance. I think in the moment we like the idea of choosing Jesus, but we don't like the idea of turning to, so agreeing with our sin, but also turning to Jesus. So I think that's a byproduct of the sin cycle.
Yeah.
For me, you know what I mean? I think when people are stuck in the shame or trying to keep up with the Joneses or whatever, that is, you are trying to live in such a way that is outside of God's protection and provision. And I don't know that it's necessarily discipline from God. Maybe it is, but it's just, hey, you're making your own decision and you're having to deal with it too. You're not obeying God. So, okay, here you go. Here's the consequences of your decision. And shame is, in my opinion, a byproduct of that.
Yeah.
So
absolutely. And then I think that you and I both, in the positions we're in, we end up working with people, with kids that are truly having to overcome some of this dysfunction that they're dealing with, right? Yeah. And on the flip side, why should we try to seek? We shouldn't be ashamed that we're humans and nobody has a perfect family. But at the same time, I do think we should pursue the most healthy families we can be, for the glory of God and for the good of the kids, right? Yeah. So how does a kid growing up, you get them as teenagers, and there's a ton of dysfunction in the family, what are some of the consequences that you see that begin to show up in a kid's life?
Well, just natural ones are blended families, and there's a whole slew of complexities with that. I think you end up with moms and dads who parent from a positional standpoint only.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean?
What do you mean by that?
Maybe you have a dad or a mom. Doesn't have to just be fixated on dads who they parent from maybe a sense of provision. Maybe
food on the table, roof over your head.
And I think a lot of it comes from with great intention, but you parent from, we'll just say this, a position of pain, okay? Because I've been here, I've been through my fair share of counseling, and when you parent from a position of pain, you're not being who God created you to be, and in turn, I don't think you can parent the way that God's created you to be. So
okay.
what you're doing is the train of thought goes like this. Well, I didn't have, so I will make sure. Does that make sense? So
almost like I'm going to give my kid everything I
Right.
didn't have.
Exactly. And
Okay.
I think what happens is there's great intent there, but you end up providing something that is maybe a fraction or a sliver of what your child actually needs.
Mm.
So-
Which is what, by the way?
well,
How
they-
would you
they-
answer that last part?
They need they need a
Presence.
mom and
They
dad.
need presence, right?
presence. They need a
Engagement.
companion. They do need a parent. You don't need to forfeit that, but they also need someone who just loves them for them. I think about I'm drawing a blank on the verse. I want to say it's in Ephesians where it says, "Do not provoke your child to anger."
Yeah, right.
So that verse,
I think the Bible should have also said the kid shouldn't provoke the parent to anger, but whatever.
unless they're stronger than
Yeah, that's my son.
I think about the verse.
So we should let everyone know. I was telling you before the podcast,
Right.
my Father's Day card this week for my 3 kids. My oldest son, Gabe, who you're very close to, he's funny. And the other 2 kids wrote these heartfelt things to me. And Gabe's was just one line, and it said, "Happy Father's Day. It must be tough having a son so much stronger than you."
It seems like it was heartfelt.
Gabe Bell. It was heartfelt.
yeah,
Oh, he
right.
meant it. I think it's a challenge.
He was honest.
I told him, I said, I see this as a challenge.
Right. To me, that verse comes to light whenever you try to parent a child positionally, maybe provision wise or whatever.
Yeah.
And when it comes time to act as the disciplinarian, you're stepping in and you have to discipline the child, and they resent you for it because
The relationship wasn't there.
yeah. So it's so much. Yeah. I mean, I've seen this with my own kids, and
I think we all make the mistake because don't you? I know this from we teach this from a leadership standpoint. The lowest level of leadership is positional leadership.
Yeah.
It's the absolute lowest level.
Right.
You got a title. That's why I'm your boss,
and I have to respect you.
I have to.
because-
Yeah.
yeah.
It's like, well, that's that does not work long term.
right. I think about Father's Day and Mother's Day. Like those should be your child should want to
Yeah.
express to you how they feel about
Right.
you. Not it's Father's Day. I
Here
have
I
to.
go. Here we go again.
It's an I get to.
Yeah, totally.
Because of the relational equity there, the connection that you guys have.
Well,
and-
when we look at Jacob and Esau, and we were watching them grow up over these last 2 weeks, it's so obvious that Isaac has picked a favorite and Rebecca, the mom, has picked a favorite. It's so obvious. Scripture records it. It's like these boys knew
yeah,
which one liked them and which one didn't.
sure.
And so, isn't that crazy?
Uh-huh.
That's
Yep.
pretty dysfunctional.
It is. It is. You see the Isaac being Jacob being the cook, the chef, and Esau being the
The hunter,
the
hairy
redneck.
camouflage, yeah.
Chewbacca.
had his 4-wheel drive Silverado, and
Right. Yeah.
but
Yep.
you really do see, and those are fun caricatures to help people understand. But I do think they're both real people because we're going to see Esau's emotion too pour out of him.
Yeah.
And it is a real. I think what I love is that the Bible does not hold punches.
Mhm.
It's like this is a real human story. Here's the family God decided to change the world through that's going to become a nation, and they are all jacked up,
Yep.
man.
Yep.
They're a mess.
Yep.
And I just look at it and I go, now, if these patriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Joseph, if it was that hard and that messy for them, why am I surprised that it's hard for us?
Yeah.
Hard for me, hard for you.
Yeah.
Our families are just not going to be perfect. It's not a linear straight line.
Yeah.
And we've got to trust God with that.
Yeah. So someone told me a long time ago, man, you don't have to, I know this is wild, this is a reach here, but you don't have to have premarital sex to understand that is wrong. That you have all these characters and these stories for us to learn from their story to go, oh, that's how God feels
Hey,
about
learning
this.
from experience is a costly way to do it.
It
isn't
is. It is. So don't do that. But yeah, that's something we tell our teenagers. You don't have to experience sin to know that it's wrong.
That's really good, man.
Look at the characters and the people that God has used, and you are still part of the story that God is writing. God's using you, and He's using me. So,
And I think sometimes we look at these old stories, ancient stories with like Jacob, and we go, now what could a guy that long ago have for me? What in the world can I learn from that guy? And it turns out a ton because technology has changed and everything in the world has changed. But guess what hasn't changed? Human nature.
Yeah, right.
And you can see it, man. They're in ancient canvas tents, and how they're living their lives is very much in an ancient world.
Yeah.
But you look at it and you go, oh, we're still dealing with the same stuff.
Yep.
We have iPads and Xboxes and air conditioners, and we're still humans.
Yep.
Right?
Yep, for sure.
So when you look at this story of Jacob Esau, we realize that, for one, these two boys are twins. Obviously, they're not identical. They're born into some dysfunction. Dad likes Esau. Mom likes Jacob. And
interesting dynamic there.
Yeah, it really is. And they begin to grow up with that. And then this past week, we saw that as young adults, Esau comes in. Jacob's cooking a soup, and evidently he was an amazing cook. And Esau wants something right then. He is, and what we found out, we talked about it Sunday, the appetites, right, TC?
Yeah, right.
And we all have them.
Yeah.
And we said that when we're born with an appetite for sin. We really are. And then when we're born again, Jesus transforms us, gives us a new nature, and our new nature in Christ hungers, he said, after righteousness. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness.
Yeah.
And so what we said Sunday, though, is that don't be fooled about this. Yeah. Your old appetite didn't go away.
Right.
You now have a war between your two appetites, right?
Correct.
And we're looking at Esau, and he is an example of a man that just lives by his appetite. Mm-hmm. His physical one, but also just he's sensual. I want what I want. We're going to see he's going to marry women he shouldn't marry, and he just does what he wants to do.
Yeah.
In the moment kind of guy.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that, because I quoted you. Very seldom do I quote people on my staff. I mean, the guys I normally quote.
Was that a compliment?
I quote Spurgeon. I quote all these guys. But this week, in the quote section of the message was T.C. Brown. What did that feel like, TC, to walk in and see your quote on the page?
It was great. The line of autographs after
sure.
was just lengthy.
People just won't leave you alone.
They won't. And I understand.
But I love the line. You coined it about 10 years ago with, and your impact on students is amazing, you and Megan. But you have this phrase that you started putting out at prom time. It kind of became something you're known for. What's that phrase?
So it's don't trade what you want most for what you want in a moment. And it's actually connected to this story. I mean, it's where it came from. So
really? I didn't know it came from the Esau story.
Yeah. So don't trade what you want most for what you want in a moment.
And the context for it, typically, the way you use it, is for students at prom time.
Prom and homecoming, yeah. I usually
okay. And is the reason you use the phrase? Then I think we all understand kind of the practicality of it.
Sure.
Kids. But is it because on a prom night there's a lot of emotion, nostalgia, all those things are happening?
Almost all emotion.
It's almost euphoric, right?
Yep.
And and we said Sunday, in a situation where you are weak and you are either exhausted, or we could say on prom night you are emotional, whatever.
Yep. Hungry, angry, lonely, tired. If you've ever heard the HALT.
The HALT. Oh, I haven't heard that.
Hungry, angry, lonely, tired.
Would have been nice for you to tell me that before Sunday's message. I would have quoted you twice.
If I'm hungry, I tend to reach for things I don't need to. If I'm angry, I tend to say things. If I'm lonely, I tend to look at things.
Okay.
If I'm tired, I tend to, whatever. Same thing.
Yeah. Tired messes me all up.
But any of those.
Wow,
things.
That's really cool. Okay. So, hey, if you're listening today, wherever you are, HALT. So you've got two things today. That phrase he just said, which is
hungry, angry, lonely, or tired.
HALT.
That's
great. And watch out. That's vulnerable.
Just to be aware of them. So you said yours is
tired.
Yeah, tired.
When I'm tired.
Man, I'm not nice.
Because honestly, when I get, I do get angry. When I get angry, though, I've never had a heart. I can control myself when I'm angry.
Yeah.
I really can. I can direct it towards energy or whatever, and kind of simmer. But when I am tired, I kind of lose the ability to control.
And I'm sure you can think of someone comes to mind with each one of those categories.
I was thinking you on all of them. I was like, that's a problem for you big time.
Hey, hungry and angry. I can get hangry. Megan knows.
The thing about hungry is I just go eat. It's like, we're going to eat right now.
Yep. Hungry, angry, lonely.
Okay, tired. So that's really cool. Now, so you tell that to students, but I think that phrase works for all of us. because in Esau's sense, it wasn't a sexuality issue there, though he does have that issue.
Yeah.
He's a sensual guy. He's going to marry people he shouldn't marry. We're going to see that in the story. But today it's that I want that food right now.
Yeah.
And Jacob takes advantage. I wonder if it surprised Jacob when he said, "Sell me your birthright." That he's like, okay.
Surprised he said.
I wonder if Jacob's like, you really are.
Well, he had to know that hunger was his deal.
I think
he had
so.
to know.
They knew each other.
He had to go, oh, I got him. I got him right now.
But you see how quickly. Here's what I think is interesting, because you got to look at the details in the Bible. You're really great at this as a teacher. The Bible says he sold his birthright, and if you didn't have this last phrase, you would think, wow, hungry guy, boy likes his food. But at the end it says, and thus Esau despised his birthright.
Because he knew what he did.
It's in his heart.
Uh-huh.
He had a heart thing.
Yeah.
He didn't care.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that said a lot. The Bible was trying to tell us that our actions actually tell us what our values are, not what we say.
Uh-huh. That's correct.
Right?
Yep.
Have you ever heard people tell you what they value, but you're like, no, you don't.
Yeah. I see
That's
better
not
than
what
I
you
hear.
value.
I see better than I hear.
Yeah.
That's my response to that.
I see better than I hear.
I see better
How
than I
about
hear. Tell teenagers. So
political season's coming.
Yeah.
They will show you what they value. Yeah. Stop listening to what they say about what they value, right?
And the whole phrase "talk is cheap." I tell teenagers, and this goes for adults as well: be seen and not heard. Don't talk about it. Talk is cheap, man.
Do your thing.
Just be seen and not heard.
So what are some ways, because there's clearly as teenagers a lot of choices they're making that will impact them, and you're trying to help them navigate that. But what do you say to the 45-year-old like me listening to this podcast somewhere? How does that phrase that you give teenagers, how is it just as useful to the moms, the dads out there?
Yeah. So if in the vein of the hungry, angry, lonely, tired, if the moment leads to destruction, destroy the moment.
Okay.
So I think about, again, back to I mentioned it earlier, like the sin cycle. You're stuck in something. Maybe your leaning is, man, when I'm hungry is when I am just at my absolute worst.
Okay.
You can't just continue on apologizing. Well, I'm hungry. Sorry.
So change something.
Well, yeah, you have to do something.
Okay.
That is who TC has to die to.
Right.
So if it's anger, you can't just, be a bottle rocket to your family and just go saying things you probably don't mean. Okay. And then afterward you regret it and you're
cleaning up the mess.
At some point you're not really sorry about it.
Oh, that's good. At some point you're just
right.
You're saying, this is who I am.
It's like, I just think of like the husband who goes out and has an affair and comes back and apologizes. Well, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. And then goes and does.
Come on.
What
now.
are you talking about? No, you got to do
saying
something
one thing, but your actions are telling me something else.
Right. So at some point, you have to acknowledge your sin, but also cling to Jesus. So that's repentance. It's a two steps there. I think of I don't know, AJ Brown. Just any. I go football analogy. I can't help it. But like any good receiver in the NFL, they have two jobs.
It's always amazing to me that you, 6'3", never touched a football field.
It is amazing. Yes.
Because you would have made a great linebacker, I think, or receiver.
Right,
I don't know. Are you fast?
Lineman? No,
fast?
not anymore. No. I was.
You weren't fast. That's what we all say.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, I used to be.
Yeah. Uncle Rico. That's my that's friends that say
you look like you could suit up right now. TC.
You would have made a heck of a tight end, and I'm like, well, thanks. I think a guy who's kind of fast or whatever.
I prayed with a CFL player. Did I tell you about that?
Did you really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was amazing. We had the powerful prayer times at the end of all the gatherings. For Father's Day, and I had a young man come down, and it was so cool. He plays for the CFL. His brother plays for the NFL, and you could tell when he walked up, I was like,
huge.
Well, just, just
next level.
Put together, you know what I mean? You can tell he's been in the weight room, and he
reminds you of Gabe.
Yeah. Yeah, right. I hope my son hears that. Don't ever. Oh, anyway, stronger than your dad. Right. Come on. So, but this guy, it was really cool, TC, because he came down and he's got a daughter, young daughter, and God was just speaking to him through the message, through the word. And he was like, man, I want to be the dad God's called me to be. I really want that. It was really cool to see that. And what I love is kind of in the line of what we're talking about. Instead of him just going, well, I'm a busy guy. I got a little girl, but man, I'm trying to make $1. And no, he's like, no, I am not going to trade success in football for this little girl missing out on her dad.
Right.
Something's got to give.
Yeah, your job can't be the excuse. Jobs can change.
Oh, yeah.
Your child cannot.
Yeah.
You know,
and you can get another job. She needs you. You're her dad.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that's true for us as well.
I prayed with the dad who said he had not spoken to his daughter. So it was in a strange relationship. And he, with tears in his eyes, said, I need the courage to call my daughter.
Ooh.
12 years.
No.
12 years I haven't spoke to her. So Father's Day, he's like, I didn't get a phone call
Come on now.
because of this estranged relationship. I'm like, yes, sir, we will pray.
That's brutal, man.
Yeah. So,
but it happens. It's real life. And you look here, man.
Yeah.
What's crazy is we're going to see like this family implode. Jacob's family's about to implode this coming Sunday, what we're going to get into. And they're going to go decades apart. I mean, it's crazy when you look under the hood. And you know what? God still did an incredible work. He's telling his story.
Yep.
And so I think there's a lot of lessons for us to learn. And I love what you brought out today for folks that number one, don't make a trade. You know, don't be driven by your appetite. Your appetite will lie to you. And I don't mean just your appetite for food, your appetite for sexuality, your appetite for intimacy, your appetite for money and success. We looked at 1 John. It's one of my favorite verses in the Bible where he says, the things of the world, the lust of the eyes, the lust of the flesh, and the pride of life. These three things, that's your appetites.
Yes. It's a series, I sense.
Well, we talked, we grab it so much because it's there. It's like, unbelievable when you look at it and go, wow, yeah, that really is. That's everything I've ever dealt with there. Because I want success and I want to be impressive, right? And my biggest one of the three is pride of life.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
the one I wrestle with the most.
I see.
That depends on, well, no, pride of life. Pride of life is mine because I've all my life wanted to, I've wanted to be significant. I've wanted to be something. And that was important to me. And that has a plus and a minus. The plus is driven and all that. The underbelly, the dark side of it, is that I can be driven by that instead of finding
that's your motivator.
Okay. Whereas someone else, like an Esau, it's all about his appetite for sensual, which can be food. It can also be sexual. Esau's like, I will satisfy whatever it is right now. Gotcha. And then others is the what they see. Is consumption.
That would be mine.
Really?
Yep.
What's an example?
Stuff.
Like another Forerunner?
Low blow.
The audience doesn't know your love for old Forerunners, and I love Forerunners too.
Yeah. I love restoring old cars.
You do.
It comes from it's probably twofold. I didn't grow up with a ton. Yeah, I don't know that I would call it poverty. So there's a sense of I guess bucking a system, like finding an old beat up car that you can restore and sell for a profit.
I feel like you're winning.
Yeah. There's a side of that. It's like, yes, I did it, and no one
Which
else
on one
can
hand,
do
that's
that.
a very cool, positive entrepreneurial thing.
Correct. It's
so
fun.
what would be the underbelly of that?
It's never satisfied.
Oh, got it.
And I can be consumed by it.
Okay.
And my wife, babe, we have 5 cars. You don't need to do that.
It's true.
Right?
It's true of everything. But it's true of everything, right?
Right. Yep.
And it just depends. And that's the thing we said. It's so funny you said that. We said Sunday that all 3 of those appetites are all insatiable.
Yeah.
You cannot quench them.
Correct. Yep.
Whichever one it is, whichever one you like. For me, for a guy like me, I learned a long time ago, it'll never be enough.
Yep.
It'll never be enough. I'll never, if I let that drive me, I will never do enough good things.
Yep. And your family, your wife, your spouse, your kids are the first ones to know it. Daddy, you haven't been home one night this week. I'm like, oh my gosh, you're right. Oh,
I am thankful that I wrestled. I wrestle it. We all wrestle it every day. But before Gabe, my oldest, was born, I had mentors and all calling it out in me, seeing me, and God and graciously let me go through some stuff that beat some of that out of me. To at least because I think the most dangerous thing is to be driven by one of those 3 appetites and be unaware that you are.
Yeah. That's very good point. Yes. You have to be aware of your leaning.
Yes.
John Acuff actually calls it a noble retreat, which is a great way to look at it. So
what does he mean by that?
It's choosing something that's good instead of what is best, what you need to do.
Yeah.
It's like when I was a teenager, I knew I needed to do my homework, but when I'm deciding to clean out the refrigerator right now or whatever, something that mom and dad they want, but that's not what
it's really a deflection.
What are you doing? Why are you delaying the inevitable? You know what I mean? So a noble retreat. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. So if you're listening today, man, we just had a conversation about just the practicality of the story, and hopefully we've given you some tools. And ask yourself, which one of those three appetites that John described in the New Testament for us, we can see Esau, being led by one. Jacob's going to be led by one too. And I'm pretty sure Jacob's is the pride of life one. Mm-hmm. Yeah. As we watch his life, he wants to be something. Yeah. He is chasing that, and it's going to take a wrestling match with the pre-incarnated Christ himself in the desert to bring Jacob to his knees. Yep. And so today we hope that we've helped you with some things. Maybe you are thinking right now, which one of these appetites am I being driven by? There are going to be consequences to being driven by one. So you're going to have to ask yourself that question. And then we hope that you're encouraged too, because here's the deal. You are not perfect, and TC and I aren't either. And our families aren't perfect. And yet we see this imperfect, dysfunctional family, not a perfect mom and dad, not perfect kids, and yet God uses them. God engages with them. God's telling his story through them. And that means there's hope for us, right, TC? There is hope for us.
Yes, there is.
Yeah, TC, thanks for being on today. It's always fun. And so wherever you are, whatever you're doing today, we hope we've stirred your affection for Christ. We hope you see that the Bible is forever, ever, endlessly relevant to you and to what you're living with today. And we hope you'll join us this Sunday and this Thursday. The weekend starts on Thursdays at Three Circle Church. We'll be going into week 3 of the On the Run series, The Life of Jacob. And we hope you're having a great summer, and we hope you'll find a way to stay connected to the local church while you're having that great summer. Love you guys. Thanks for being here. We'll see you the next time right here at the Three Circle Podcast.